10 things that may happen in Ozark Season 4. If you haven't gotten the chance to watch Netflix's high-paced, nail-biting drama Ozark, then seriously, what are you doing with your life? No wait, scratch that. You might be occupied with another series right now, so it's completely understandable. But you shouldn't go to the grave without dedicating at least 30 hours of your life to watching this award-winning series, that's for sure. You see, Season 3 answered a lot of questions that left us all flabbergasted in Season 1 and Season 2. But it also ushered its own series of questions that no doubt left fans in a state of limbo. With that being said, we're slapping this video with a gigantic spoiler alert and advising you to probably watch the show first before revisiting it. So, without further ado, let's dive into our top 10 predictions for Ozark Season 4. We'll get into them based on some of the most pressing questions asked by fans on social media. Number 10. Is there going to be a Season 4 in the first place? Weird, we know, but companies such as Netflix and CNBC have a knack for not renewing a series based on all kinds of hiccups here and there. Though we might not be sure, it's only a matter of when, not if. The show will be back for a 4th season thanks to its popularity. Though yet to be confirmed by Netflix in light of recent events, it's rumored that if so, the series will probably make it to our screens in the summer of 2021. Number 9. Will the cast add any new roles? When Helen, one of the most decisive and calculated players in the show, was brutally murdered in front of Marty and Wendy, we knew that the dynamics of the show had taken a nail-biting turn. Just like Game of Thrones, Ozark is bold enough to cut short the lives of main characters to add suspense and tension to the equation. We do expect, however, that the entire Bird family will return for sure. Secondary characters such as Omar Navarro, played by Felix Solis, will also have a much bigger role to play. Whether new characters will be added to the fold is uncertain, but when it comes to new characters on this show, there are usually a means to a bloody end. Number 8. Could Season 4 mark the beginning of the end? While the show writers have not publicly declared it to be the final series in the works, it's common knowledge that we are all in the final stretch of the storyline. In fact, Mundy has, on numerous occasions, insisted that Ozark would not drag on like most high-profile shows, and that they expect the series to be capped off by 4 or 5. We also have an eerie feeling that the Birds might end up being behind bars or murdered if the show was prolonged, so perhaps 5 would be a good place to call it a day. Plus, the writing was so good on this one, we wouldn't want it to become too repetitive as ideas are exhausted. So now that we've settled the first few puzzling questions of Season 4, let's get right into addressing the cliffhangers that left us on the edge of our seats. Buckle up, because it's gonna be a bumpy ride. Number 7. What is Navarro's plan for the Birds? Shortly after Helen, Wendy, and Martin arrive for Navarro's son's second baptism, Helen is suddenly shot in the back of the head by one of Navarro's men, which leaves the Birds visibly distressed and terrified. Makes sense. They were initially worried that they were coming to Mexico to be, well, executed. So the sheer terror of seeing their lifeless partner on the ground must have been mortifying. Navarro then steps up, embraces them, and states that this is the beginning of their alliance. Which then begs the question, what agenda does Navarro have with the Birds? Well, in the beginning of the season, Wendy advised Navarro to invest in a new casino to enhance the legitimacy of his business. In fact, it's the idea that ends up being a major driving force for Navarro in Season 3, and we believe it will be the basis behind Navarro's interactions with the Birds in Season 4 as well. Number 6. Did Frank Jr. survive the gunshot to the groin? Despite this being one of the easiest predictions on this list, there are some fans out there who are still skeptical about it. But let's review it together, shall we? In Season 1 and 2, many of us had uncanny distaste for Darlene, but gradually she begins to transform, and we end up liking her a little. Only a little. Fans can agree on one thing, however. We hated the guts out of Frank Jr. So, there was some sense of justification to see Darlene brutally shoot Frank Jr. in the groin. But did he really die from the gunshot? We never really see what happens to him after the shot, leaving most viewers to speculate that he did, in fact, die. But just in case you went to the bathroom or missed this section of the dialogue, Darlene had a conversation with Frank Sr. towards the end of the episode, and you can hear a subtle hint in the convo that affirms Julius is, in fact, still alive. Even Cosgrove Sr.'s reaction to not attacking Darlene lets you know that the man is still with us. Not in the best shape, but still breathing. Number 5. Was Ben Davis murdered by his sister? Ben Davis really complicated affairs for the Bird family in season 3, and to no one's surprise, he was targeted. But you have to ask, did you really see him die on screen? Before we discuss this tragic ending, we must remember that Ben was a very polarizing figure. As Wendy's brother, he ends up at the Bird's casino and discovers the shady business that Marty and Wendy are running for the Mexicans. This wouldn't have been a big problem if Ben Davis wasn't bipolar and insane. Because of his erratic behavior, Wendy knows that she can't trust him, so she knows she's got to take her own brother out for the sake of her family. But did he really die? Because, yet again, we never really see an actual scene of Ben dying, and if memory serves us right from previous television shows, a character isn't dead until we see them die with our own 2 eyes. But maybe that trick doesn't fall there. Let's face it, Ben never really fit in the first place, so maybe showing his death would have been too cruel for the audience. Number 4. Will Ruth go to war with the Birds? It's been pretty clear from the first season that the tension between Ruth and the Birds is only heating up. Both Marty and Ruth had an innate understanding that they could continue working together, albeit reluctantly, as long as they understood that they needed each other. Though Ruth never revealed her true intention, we all know that she was eager to learn how to operate the money laundering business and take it over from the Birds. Unfortunately, as time went by, their relationship tensed, giving Ruth all the more reason to dislike them. Plus, she probably won't forgive them for the death of Ben, not to mention failing to protect her from the assault she faced at the hands of Frank Jr. So, we predict that there will be a direct, violent confrontation between the two parties in season 4. Number 3. Darlene and Wyatt's relationship. Let's face it, we've all asked ourselves this question. What are Darlene and Wyatt doing together? Not only because of the fact that their age gap is way over the top, but also because Darlene is every bit of the word crazy. But yeah, so is Wyatt, and the fact that both of them have had a tumultuous past perhaps makes them gravitate towards each other? Yeah, their deep-seated hatred for the Birds and working in the same shady business makes them great allies, but nobody wanted to see them as lovers, honestly. Perhaps Darlene intends to use him to hatch a plan against the Birds. We certainly think so. And now, here's our best pick of the day. We've watched the scenes like the Red Wedding, which gave us an on-screen PTSD, but never has such a tense situation been replicated more until the sudden gunshot execution of Helen. What was so conflicting for most viewers about that scene was that as much as you hated her for her ruthlessness, you felt bad for her when she was killed. Now imagine the same thing happening to Wendy, which as the picture clearly shows, might be killed in season 4. Do you think it's possible? If so, then how would Marty respond to this? Number 2. Jonah turning against his parents. Jonah showed us that he was no longer a child, and now a monumental piece to the puzzle, after he pulled a shotgun on Helen. It seemed like a breaking point for Jonah when he found out that Helen and his mother were behind Jonah's death. We believe there's a possibility he might team up with Darlene and Ruth to avenge his uncle's killing. If this was to happen, then things might look pretty bleak for Marty and Wendy. Number 1. Will the Birds ever get a happy ending? The question we've all asked ourselves. In previous seasons, we've seen that most of the Birds' problems arise from the fact that the two main protagonists never listen to each other. So, the best they can do for now is get along, or at least pretend to do so. As the saying goes, fake it till you make it. And maybe this is what they need to finally unearth themselves from the biggest mistake of their lives and find peace in their marriage. With that said, we've come to the end of our predictions. Which one seems most likely to happen? Let us know in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.